Hello Cherries fans and welcome to this back of the net preview of AFC Bournemouth against Southampton, which is tomorrow night at Dean Court. It's going to be a huge game under the floodlights, not least for Southampton, where the pressure and the microscope is fully on Ralph's position. Look, they drew 1-1 with West Ham last weekend, of course, and I think it sounds like they really need to get a result because his position as manager could well be in the balance. It's myself, Sam Davis.
Me, Tom Jordan.
And we've got a guest with us that we're going to introduce shortly. But before we do, Tom, there's a little button that they can press, isn't there?
I've still not pressed it. Yeah, it's a big red one. It says subscribe. Click it and then it will go away for you. And yeah, click the like as well. Get out to more people. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So it's not only myself and Tom, as I alluded to, someone who's covered AFC Bournemouth, but is also covering Saints. So it's fair to say that he's got some good knowledge on this fixture. It's Jacob Tanswell as well. As Jacob, how are you?
I'm really good. It's great to be back, to be fair, and speaking to you guys.
Yeah, brilliant. How are you? How are you? Because you've taken this new role at The Athletic.
Yeah.
Lots to talk about. What is it with you and having seasons that are very tumultuous to cover?
I think I've been covering 3 transfer windows now, and every single club I've just decided to spend amounts of money, buy 5, 6, 7 players at one time. It's been hectic. I absolutely love covering Bournemouth, and if it wasn't for this job, I would still be doing it now. I loved covering it, and I didn't see myself going anywhere else. And then the summer came and everything changed. So yeah, it's been hectic, but I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and Tom, Premier League, Bournemouth are riding high in the table, and we're above Southampton. And it's a fixture. Look, it's early days, of course it is. However, it's a fixture that seems to be really important for Saints at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. With the way their season's going at the moment, kind of consistently inconsistent, which seems like Southampton always feel a bit like that in the Premier League, and then they always go every season. I think they could go, and then they're always all right. But if we can knock them down a little bit, that wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, we're on a good run, mate, ourselves. Hopefully keep up that little... How many teams have lost since O'Neill got the job?
You know the answer. That's a rhetorical
We're the only team haven't lost. Yeah, it's really good. It's enjoyable, isn't it, to be a Bournemouth fan at the moment. So hopefully we can continue it.
So from an outsider's perspective, I mean, I know you've got an inside track of what goes on at Bournemouth, but obviously you're covering Saints now, so you're looking from the out in. What have you made of this season? Parker's dismissal and also, the appointment of Gary O'Neill in temporary charge, but he's doing well.
I think the thing with Scott Parker, I thought was always going to come because there wasn't much credit in the bank with the fans anyway, despite going up. So I thought if it did start to unravel, it would unravel fast. I didn't really speak that quick. But when you hear the things we heard, in the sun before a ball was even kicked, Scott Parker's discontent before they even started pre-season, threats of perhaps he would resign, stuff like that. It was quite precarious from then. And then you see the 9-0. I remember being at St Mary's and I saw his quotes afterwards. And after the Sociedad game, and I just could not believe it because I thought Scott Parker, he knew what was coming. He knew the amount of money he had. He's not stupid. He knows Neil Blakey, Richard Hughes. He talks to him every single day. And the fact that he behaved like that, I thought was completely out of order. And I was always quite a big fan of Scott Parker in terms of how steadfast and headstrong he was. But I felt he needed to show a little bit, he needed to give a little bit more, and he didn't do that. And I wrote a piece at the end of last season about the spirit at Bournemouth, so I'm not surprised at all that they've gone on this run, because all you need is a bit of a positivity and a bit of fight, and Gary O'Neill seems to be the man that provides that.
It's amazing. Gary O'Neill seems to get the club already much more than Parker did. For instance, I quoted on a recent show that Gary O'Neill mentioned -17, the Winter Gardens back in the late 90s when he was just a youngster at the time. He wouldn't have had any knowledge of it, but he's obviously indulged himself in the history of the club and has learnt about it, and he's immersed himself in the job. For Parker, I don't think he was that kind of man. Did you ever get that impression?
Yeah, he was transactional, wasn't he, really? It was all a case of just business. And it's quite cold. It was just him to basically enhance his own career. I don't think he ever saw this as a long-term project. It got portrayed as it was, but he was always going to be a year, 18 months, do well, and then go on to a bigger job. So I think Gary O'Neill's probably the right character for Bournemouth.
I think the fact is as well, if that was the case and it was kind of a stepping stone for Scott, we done well out of it, didn't we? We got him in, got him to get us promoted, and then told him to go, and now we're on a better run. So yeah, I think it feels like we've had the last laugh, and now if he were to get a a bigger or better job than Bournemouth, I would be very surprised because of the way it all ended. So, yeah, it is a weird one. I just felt it was, in terms of Parker, I felt it was a bit, we've obviously covered lots of it, but I just felt it was the disrespect I felt to the people upstairs, considering they gave him everything he needed in January, when we should have got over the line without them. So it was, and I think at the moment, like Jacob said, Gary Neal seems to get it, and he's just got everyone together, hasn't he? And that's all we've wanted, but we ain't got the best players, so we need that. We've got to have that togetherness, and it's going all right, mate.
Yeah, so a quick drive down the M27 from Bournemouth to Southampton for you. What's it been like covering Saints so far? For instance, their media team and the staff, are they very open and receptive? Because I know that AFC Bournemouth always had a good reputation, first with Anthony Marshall, but now Chris Smith as well, who heads up the media department. Seems like journalists are trusted, they're given the access that they need. Have you got similar at Saints?
Yeah, they're very open and they're very, very transparent. Of course, I hassle them all the time because every story you put out there, we've got to double check, triple check with the club media team, and they've been fantastic. It's obviously a bigger club, and I'm sure you guys understand it. So there's a lot more. There's a few more. There's a few more people you've got to talk to. There's a few more stories, so you've got to cover all bases. But yeah, it's been really, really good, and just hopefully the form can improve on the pitch.
A few stories that you've written, because obviously we're still following you on Twitter and seeing a lot of your pieces, and they've raised a few eyebrows amongst supporters because you're asking questions that need to be asked, but that's part and parcel of the job, isn't it? You have to. Yeah,
exactly, and I don't think you're ever going to please everyone because, there's two sides of debate, and it seems like it's becoming even more polarising with, the Ralph in and Ralph out. And anything you're pro-Ralph, you have the anti-Ralph brigade criticising it, and vice versa. So, of course, it's par for the course, but I think it's got to be said. We've had, these stories about player unrest for, 12 to 18 months, and after the Everton game when they lost again, we decided we had to put it out there because it's true, it's concrete evidence, and there feels like there has to be a change at the club from those, the players, the key players, and the staff. So, yeah, everything seems on a knife edge at the moment, and it could tip either way at Vitality on Wednesday.
Would you say that you said about the Ralph in and Ralph out, would you say that's pretty split, 50-50?
Not anymore.
Do you think it's leaning a little bit?
I think at the start of the season, given all the, they signed 10 players, recruitment changed, the ownership changed, there was such a big change at Southampton. It was probably 60-40, they thought, we'll give Ralph a chance because this is a whole new team. But over the last couple of weeks, probably last month, it's probably 80% want him out now. Okay. So it's a big shift. It's the biggest shift that there's ever been. And Ralph survived 2-9-0, so he's gone through the mill really. But I think it's leaning towards an inevitable conclusion.
What's led to Saints being in the position they are now? Yeah. Is it multiple factors coming together, or is it one single thing, or what?
Well, where Southampton are, it's probably where you expect them to be. Up and down, you've said it, Tom. Yeah. But they don't have the same identity as they used to be. They used to be really exciting, front foot, bloody the nose to the teams, press high. They don't tend to do that. It's a little bit what Scott Parker did in the winter. They just sat back, they invited pressure, and they haven't really got an identity anymore at Southampton. And I think that used to be Ralph Hasenhüttl's escape, really. They think, they're losing games, but at least they're giving it a go. And they're not even giving it a go now. I think everything's changed. And it feels like the clarity that Hasenhüttl once had has gone. And the players know that as well. They know that he's not as strong in his beliefs as he used to be.
It felt like he had a philosophy. I remember I've got some Southampton mates, they all live in Bournemouth by the way, but they were always saying that when we were having chats about it, that they liked that Ralph had that philosophy, and you've just got to kind of see it through a little bit. It's a bit of a project, and it feels like he's got away from that a little bit, doesn't it? So certainly is tipping, that's interesting.
Do you think they could or would pull the trigger before the World Cup break, or do you think they would just at least go into the World Cup?
I think the goal has always been to get through to the international break. That's when they'll make the decision, I think, anyway. But it's becoming a case of they have a 1 in 5 games. They've got 13 points from the last 24 games. It's relegation. It's more than relegation form. It's a severe dip. And I think there's just a feeling amongst everyone, really, the board, the players, the fans, that it's come to an end of a cycle. Ralph Hasenhüttl's done an unbelievable job to keep Southampton in the Premier League for that long with basically no money. And they've got a little bit of money. They still haven't got a striker, by the way. They spent 75 million in the summer, and they seem to be going backwards. They've got a lot of young players, but it's just questions if Hasenhüttl's the man to guide them.
It does feel like it's got a bit stale. I think that's the way I would put it. Yeah. Like you say, it's kind of, it's ran its course a little bit. He hasn't done a bad job at all, but it has ran its course a little bit. But yeah, I think we were saying off there, weren't we? I do wonder if with the way it is this season with that World Cup, that it won't just be Southampton, like a lot of clubs will have them chats where I go, get to the World Cup, we'll have a chat, see where we're going. So probably be the same, won't it?
So, Jacob, Is it a rivalry? Is it a derby? We need to know the answers to these important questions. I think one thing, actually, Tom, I'll just speak to you. It feels like the animosity or the rivalry, the hatred has dissipated a little bit. Is that because we were in the Championship for a while?
No, from a personal point of view, I say it is a funny one. We know it's not a heated, rivalry. It's not a blooming, I don't know, it's not Manchester Derby or Tottenham Arsenal or whatever. But from my point of view, as I'm 30, just nearly 31, it was basically just from my personal point of view. When I was at school, you just had loads of mates that go, their parents that will go, well, why would you support Bournemouth when Southampton was 20 minutes down the road and they're much better? Because they're in the Premier League and we're in the lower two leagues at that time. And so, most of my mates that are Southampton fans, they all went to my school kind of thing. And me personally, I just think, well, I could do that. I could just go and support Man City if you want. I feel like, well, you don't get to pick your team. That's where so it's just that little, and then you get patronised by people that you think, well, you just picked a club because they were better when you were a kid. So for me, it's just like, it'd be nice to just give them a little dig. That's all it is, really. But it is very close. And it's just, we'll go to Southampton away and we'll be getting on the train with Southampton fans because they live down here. And that's, no Bournemouth fans live in Southampton, really. But a lot of Southampton fans live in Bournemouth. I think it's just that. But we all know that Southampton's main rivalry is Portsmouth. But I do think we've almost, sounds silly to say about a rivalry, we've almost earned the right, I feel like, in recent times. Because we've been above Portsmouth in league positions for ages now. So, I feel like it seems a bit silly to, we wouldn't, call Weymouth a rival because we don't play them. When are they going to play Portsmouth again? I mean, it could be next season, to be fair. But so that's where it is for me. I mean, it's just, it's a little bit light-hearted rival. I mean, geographically, it's a derby. Rivalry might be a bit strong, I guess.
So from a Saints point of view, not
really. I think over the Tannoy a couple of weeks ago, Bournemouth were winning a game or they're doing well against one of the bigger teams, and there was a few cheers because.
Hate that.
Yeah, I think you too. So it's not a rivalry, but I think, like you say, I think they are quite keen to get one on over and Bournemouth, just keep them in their box, kind of.
Yeah,
I think it's more that. Sounds like there's no hatred, but it's kind of like just to keep them shut up, kind of thing. For sure. But we've got to be careful. I think the last time we beat them was when we were on a really good run and we ended up going down that season, didn't we? So we got. It won't all depend on this, but hopefully, like you say, I think both teams just want to shut the other team up by getting a result.
So last time we met them at home was in the COVID hit season, and it was a 2-0 defeat for Bournemouth. Goals from Danny Ings and Shea Adams. Of course, Ings has moved on. Shea Adams, is he a goal threat? I was chatting to some Saints fans the other day that were saying that he's not really delivering in terms of his potency up front.
Hasenhüttl called his goal scoring form a ketchup bottle because it all comes at once. Okay. So he scored 2 against Leicester, then he scored in the Cup against Cambridge, and you thought, okay, here we go, he's going to finally fill. And he just goes in these barren runs of form. He's always been best as a foil, so he was superb when Danny Ings was there. But he's the main man, and I think one of the failings of Slam's summer is they were desperate for a striker. They tried to get Cody Gakpo, who would have been fantastic, but they haven't got a striker apart from Shea Adams, and he's been now looked upon. Bearing in mind they wanted to sell him in the summer, Southampton, to Everton. He's now looked at as a main man, so it shows you the lack of goal scorer at all, because they've got Adam Armstrong, who's a championship striker as well, really.
Yeah. I've always looked at Shea Adams and thought, I can't work out if he's good or not. Like you were saying, one week you see highlights stuff and I think, blimmin' heck, he's lethal. And then the next week, where was he? So that makes sense.
It was him that scored that worldie against Man City, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, I remember that. But like you say, they've got Adam Armstrong. I always remember when he was in the Championship. I thought, he could make the step up, and it hasn't quite happened, has it? So I guess he's their main threat, but they're probably relying on him too much.
And that seems to be the case. There's a few players underperforming. Not least James Ward-Prowse, who's often their talisman. A lot of Saints fans are saying that they haven't quite seen the best of him this season.
Yeah, I've wrote about it a couple of times this season. I don't think it's him. He's just got so much work to do in the midfield because without Romeo Lavia, who Hasenhüttl built the team around, he's only 18, first debut season in the Premier League. Without him, Ward-Prowse is, he's 27, but he's the most experienced player. He's the lead in the dressing room. He takes free kicks, corners. He leads the press. He scores all the goals. He basically does everything. He sings a theme tune, absolutely everything. So the fact that he's now around a bunch of teenagers and Ralph has gone away from that pressing system, so he's left exposed midfield. He's got too much on his hands, and the World Cup's coming up. He's probably not going to make it.
Do you not think he will?
No, because I think he's the easy guy to leave out for Gareth Southgate.
Yeah,
he won't cause much controversy.
I do wonder, because of what Jacob was saying there. I looked at it the other. I'd be interested to see, because I looked at it the other way in the sense that I thought Southgate, we've got quite a young group, haven't we? And I thought maybe he'll look at Ward-Prowse and go, well, what he's doing for Southampton, he has to kind of be a leader with a lot of young players, so that might suit him coming into the squad. That he'll have them leadership qualities that Southgate might like. I certainly, and this is me saying that, and he's a Southampton player, I would have him in that England squad. Because, like Jacob said, because he's got so much to do. He's box to box. He can get set pieces. Then he's got to sit in front of the back four. Then he's got to try and get up with the striker. So yeah, he's got a lot of different things in his armoury. But same with Che Adams. He's probably got too much responsibility on him again, hasn't he, at the moment?
Do you think he's a 21st century Matt Le Tissier? Will he ever move from Southampton?
I think it's coming to the tipping point. If he doesn't get into the World Cup squad, I think he probably thinks I'll be 28 next summer. I'll be in my peak. I've done as much as I can with this team. I've probably got to go on and beyond. So he signed a new 5-year contract last year though, so it's going to cost some money to take him out of Southampton. Yeah.
And who would pay a lot, but like you say, because of his age, it would cost a lot of money. He might end up having to stay there. I mean, we could do a backup for Lewis Cook, I suppose.
Oh yeah, we could do. Who else should Bournemouth fans be wary of on the pitch? Which players are of note that we should be? You're thinking could pose us a threat? I
think it kind of sums up Southampton where they are. It's probably Kai Walker-Peters, the right back, because Omar Bella-Kotchap dislocated his shoulder, who's been incredible.
He come off, didn't he?
So he's going to be probably ruled out. Romeo Lavia's injured, Livramento's still injured, so probably the three best players, and all teenagers, are still injured. So, and most of Southampton's best threat comes from Kai Walker-Peters down that right side or left side. He's a phenomenal crosser. He gets to the byline really well. But just in general, Southampton's just very blunt at the moment. It's very disconnected. You don't know what formation they're going to play. You don't know who's going to play. Apart from Ward-Prowse and Bazunu, everyone else is up for grabs really. So it just kind of shows the state of flux they're in.
Going back to that England point, actually, I wonder if Kyle Walker-Peters. You see, Reece James looks like he's ruled out. And Trent's had his problems. He'd probably be fit. He has had a call up, hasn't he, from Southgate?
He can play left back. He's probably better left back, actually.
Yeah, and he's got that versatility. I do wonder if he'll be looking at that because, he's been any Southampton fan. It does sound like he's been their best player this season so far and their main threat. So, he is a good player, Kyle Walker-Peters. So, they'll probably be looking at, is it Perrault that plays on the other side who scored?
Yeah.
So, they'll probably be looking for them as outlets, won't they, to try and get forward a little bit. So, we've just got to watch that.
They normally supply the natural width because the two wingers are basically number 10s.
So I can see this one being quite a tasty game under the floodlights. I mean, we've briefly alluded to it so far, but how important is this for Ralph Hasenhüttl? Yeah. Do you think this is a must-win match for him?
This is it. When we got told that Ralph could be gone, I think Southampton always hoped that they'd probably take stock after the Bournemouth game because they thought Bournemouth. Probably the easiest game, as you say. So after that, they'll analyse it and say, shall we get rid of him now or wait till the World Cup break? So the fact that they've not won in 5, lost previous 4 before West Ham, which they should have really lost, I think he's probably gone if they don't win. So it's a massive incentive for Bournemouth because Southampton are on the rack, they're on the ropes. They're the lowest point in probably 5 years, probably since they've been in the Premier League. It's probably the lowest point in their time here. So he has to win, plain and simple.
It's going to be tough, and it's like, it does feel like probably the best time. We send them a few fixtures that probably want a good time to play, and this is a good time to play Southampton. Yeah. We've got to try and take advantage of that, I think. But I do wonder as well with like the Ralph thing, and I wonder if owners look at kind of the fact that, say, so Leicester and Forest are prime examples, just can't buy a win. They're really, really struggling. Does that kind of, in a load of mind, think, well, there's 2 that we're, even on this form, there's still 2 down there. Can we get a little bit further? If you're like cut adrift, so that might be helping him a little bit, I think, that there's 2 more teams that are really struggling, and Wolves as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. And do you get the feeling that he's lost the dressing room or anything like that? Do you think that players are still buying into his philosophy, but it's just not working out? And obviously, they've had bad luck with injuries, or do you sense any discontent at all?
There's major discontent. The players voiced their concerns in the summer about his command management, very cold. They asked for change, and contrary to what people think, they are still key players in the dressing room that said that. It's not the players that he's got rid of, so they're still there. Of course, it helps that he brought 10 new players in, so they're probably happy, they're buying into the methods. But I think in general, when you have a manager for 4 years, especially at a club like Southampton where it's inconsistent and you're playing such a high intensity game, it's going to become stale. You need new impetus. They've tried to do it with the new assistant coach, Ruben Sellers, who by all counts is doing a really good job. But with Hasenhüttl, who's never been a guy to put an arm around anyone's shoulder, he likes to tend to hold back. Yeah, it's probably coming to an end, and I think the players know that too.
So you're speaking about dressing room discontent and stuff, and as a reporter, there's probably a fine line with what you can and can't say. That must make it very difficult, because you've got to keep in with the club and keep an open relationship, but I suppose you've got to be honest as well. Exactly,
and I think that's something I've always tried to do. Of course, you want to please everyone, but you can't please everybody. And I think my job, I've always thought, is that I need to cut to the truth. It might cause me concerns. It might give me I might have to get a 45-minute phone call from a club or from an unhappy agent or whatever. But you've got to report the truth, and I'd like to think I did that at Bournemouth. I did that at Southampton, and yeah, it's difficult. But people should know this, and it's up to them if they want to hear this information or not.
So right, onto the game. So how are Southampton going to win? How will Southampton beat Bournemouth? What are they going to do to win at Dean Court?
I think they'll have to go toe-to-toe. I think they have to roll back the years. They have to go high press. I think they did it in the first half against West Ham. They won second ball, stuff like that. And they've just got to go for it. They've got to go for the juggler from the start. And they've got to go to a system that Ralph has always used, the 4-2-2-2, and rely on percentages. It seems quite schoolboy, but Gavin Bazunu, he takes probably bar Edison takes the longest goal kick in the league, and they've got Che Adams up top. So all they seem to do, Southampton, it's all their mode of attack is long balls up to Che Adams, get around him, Ward-Prowse, Stuart Armstrong, win second balls, and that's how they build. They can't play through the lines anymore. They've given it up since Romeo Lavia's been injured. So that's probably you're looking at a Burnley or Stoke type of performance.
How are Bournemouth going to beat Saints then, Tom?
I'm just turn up by the sound of it. No, I think keep doing what we're doing. That intensity's been better. I thought that in the Fulham game, because we've been weirdly since the 9-0. I'm sure you've seen, Jacob. We've been really resolute, really compact. I also think I mentioned it on a previous video that because of Lloyd Kelly's injury, we were so critical to us and his recovery pace. We've got two centre halves who haven't got any pace, so it's probably made us a little bit safer because we've gone right. We have to be a little bit deeper here because we haven't got that recovery pace, and I think that's helped us being solid. I mean, I think all the goals Gary Neal's conceded, only one's been open play. I think we've had 2 corners and 3 penalties against us. Leicester, the scrappy goal against Leicester. Then 2 headers from corners and 3 penalties. So that shows that in open play we're not conceding many chances. My worry always in the early days of O'Neill was, but are we hurting teams the other end? And I think that was promising in the last few. Is it in transitions and stuff? We managed to get higher up the pitch. People like Tavernier and Christie and Billing getting a little bit closer to Dom. And I think at home we've certainly tried to do that. And I think, as we've been saying in this video, that Southampton there for the taking. I think if we start early, that high press, really just get at them early and get an early goal, then we know we can grind things out. We know we can defend if we have to. So important will be that first goal. If we can get it, then I'll be confident.
Well, shortly Tom is going to be predicting the teams, both sides. But yeah, Jacob, it's been an absolute pleasure. I was going to say, do I ask him for a prediction? But I'm not going to do that because you know what?
He'll sit on the fence and do a draw anyway. I know.
I'll ask you. I'll ask you later on in the show. But whereabouts can people see and read your work?
Yeah, so I'm on The Athletic and on Twitter as well, J_Tanswell.
Brilliant. And I saw that you're also making frequent appearances on Total Saints Pod as well. Is that right?
Yes, every Sunday. Normally, every time I go on, it's after a loss. So hopefully, it might be a little bit different in the coming months.
It'll be on Thursday then.
Can you use that platform as a sort of cathartic way of expressing your own emotions, or do you sort of try to keep it professional and journalistic when you're on that, or do you speak as a fan?
I think you've got to be honest, but at the same time, you can't just be a fan and give that type of emotion. You've got to be a little bit balanced. You've got to see both sides. So it's difficult, but it's something I'm used to now.
Yeah. Brilliant, Jacob. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Tom.
And now Tom is going to do his team predictions. I can't wait. Brilliant to have Jacob on. Some really good insight there about Saints, and we're interested in the team news that Tom is going to deliver in terms of his predicted 11 based on what we know so far. It feels wrong me being on this side, mate. I swear I'm usually on that side.
Yeah, you might be actually. Yeah,
maybe not.
That's fine. It's fine.
Feels a bit weird, but anyway. Look, here we go. There's the pitch. And we need to get through the AFC Bournemouth 11 then against Saints. What formation have you got us in, mate?
I'm going to go for a sort of 4-2-3-1-ish kind of formation that we kind of normally go with. Travers is not going to be in goal. It's going to continue with Neto. I nearly went Travers in goal as usual.
But you know what though, it looked like he could have been needed in the last game, but Neto, I don't know whatever he did. He took a free kick and then pulled up slightly, but obviously he was all okay.
I think it was an injury. I think it might have been to get some information on the pitch, but who knows. But yeah, Neto in goal doing really well for us at the moment. I'm actually going to mix. I always think when there's a midweek game as well, you've got a chance to freshen it up. You maybe got some tired legs in there. I'm going to go with Smithy going back on that right.
Okay.
I think Frederick's been great, by the way, but I think, I keep thinking it. Maybe he is fine, but he's had a few knocks. He's played back-to-back out. I think he might just come out of this one, and I think Smithy's going to go back on the right-hand side. We'll definitely stick with Meps and Selessi. Mepham and Selessi as a centre-half, so have been great. They're brilliant again, weren't they? But I think Jay-Z's going to come back in.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think Zamura's going to come back in on that left-hand side and go for that flat four, if you like.
Okay. The two in front of them, any change there? Can't imagine so, surely?
No, continuing with Lewis Cook and Jefferson Lerma. And then obviously more advanced is going to be Philip Billing, for sure. I'm going to put Christie on the right.
Yep.
I'm going to make a change here. I think Tavernier might come out. I don't know why. I've got the funny feeling Jaden Anthony might get his chance.
Right.
And we might go for that Zamora-Anthony combo on the left-hand side. Tavernier's played... Has he started every game? I think he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, probably.
And he come off, he was the first sub, wasn't he, at the weekend. And I think he's done a lot of graft. And I just wonder if he might be one that comes out and we might try that combo on the left, as I say, get Christie back over on the right. But certainly Dom Solanke will be leading that line for us. But yeah, I think there might be a couple of changes. I wouldn't be surprised there isn't, but sometimes when there's a midweek one, it gives you that opportunity, doesn't it?
Interesting. Okay, on to Saints then, and looks like they're going to be in a 4-4-2 according to what's on screen there, Tom.
Yeah, 4-4-2. I know Jacob described it as a 4-2-2-2 or whatever, but yeah, pretty much 4-4-2. It's just that them wingers are a bit narrower than a traditional 4-4-2, I guess. Bazuna will be in goal, who obviously knows Mark Travers well. Both compete for that island spot. I think he's been a good signing for him, to be fair, in goal. Cole will compete as definitely be at right back. The centre-half's an interesting one because they got an injury to Bella Kotchap, who's been good for them. So I think Kaleta Carr's going to come in to partner Salisu. And then the left-back will be the goal scorer in their last game, Perraud, I think is how you pronounce it. So that's the back four. I'm pretty confident on that.
I've got to say that Saints, I don't know what the stats are on this, but they must have the highest proportion of hyphenated player surnames in the Premier League.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Well, Bella Kotchap was replaced by Kaleta Carr and Carl Walker-Peters. That's an absolute nightmare. So anyway, James Ward-Prowse is in the centre of midfield. Yeah, he'll be one of the ones in the centre, and with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. That's probably the one I'm a little bit unsure of. Maitland-Niles has come in, done okay. Could be Diallo, I'm not sure about his fitness, but I'm going to go with Ward-Prowse and Maitland-Niles in the middle.
I think whoever's in the commercial department, he's got his thinking cap on, hasn't he? Because obviously shirt sales, got to pay, you know.
Like that. Yeah, I like that.
Long surnames, right.
But yeah, them two in the middle, and then as I say, kind of narrow wide players, but Aribo on the right, Elianusi on the left.
Right.
And then kind of a front two really, Che Adams, as we were talking about, with Jacob as their main man, and I think they'll give another chance to Adam Armstrong up there with him. So yeah, kind of 4-4-2. Wingers will be quite narrow, but yeah, I'm pretty confident with the Saints one, to be honest, because they have got a few injuries. Lavia and some big injuries in there, so they haven't got a lot to play with. So that's what I think it will be, mate.
So it's been a very different type of preview. Thanks to Jacob for coming on. I didn't ask him for his prediction, but I'm going to ask you, Tom. What's it to be? What's the scoreline going to be on Wednesday night under the lights?
I'm going to go for a KG 1-0 Bournemouth.
1-0.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite a tight one. I think both teams will maybe play with the handbrake a little bit. I think they'll be a bit worried with their form, but I'm hoping we'll have a little bit of an edge. I'll go for the main man, Dom, to get the goal. But yeah, I'm hoping that we'll nick it anyway. What do you think?
I think 3-1 to Bournemouth.
Love it.
I think we're going to go 2-0 up. I think they're going to pull one back to make it 2-1, and then it might be KG for a bit, but then we'll score a breakaway goal. Jaden Anthony will score. Get that on your bet slip now. 3-1, that's what I'm going for. It'll be interesting to see what you say in the comments. Look, whether you're a Cherries fan or a Saints fan, make sure you put your predictions in there as well. And also, if there are any parts of this show in terms of our predicted lineups, Tom's predicted lineups you disagree with, let us know and tell us who you think will be starting instead. It's so important, mate, as with every game, but particularly under the lights against our rivals, that the atmosphere, it's got to be loud, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, like you say, it's every game's important, but this is definitely one. Southampton are not in a good place at the moment.
We need to take points off the teams in and around us.
Exactly. It's under the lights. We're at home. We're on a good run. They're on a bad run. It's geographically a derby.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should be bouncing there. Bill Foley might be watching on, but he was at the last game, and I thought that really helped. And that was kind of a reason. Well, let's make the fact that we're on a good run. They're on a bad run. It's a bit of a derby. Let's make sure that it's bouncing again, mate.
Tomorrow it's going to be a huge game. Remember, it's 7:30 kickoff rather than 7:45. It is live on Amazon Prime as well. So yeah, it's going to be a big old match week in the Premier League. Hopefully, Gary O'Neill can equal Eddie Howe's unbeaten record by making it 7 in a row. It would be absolutely huge for him, but huge for the club as well. Taking points off the teams in and around us, and Saints are certainly. Well, they're not even in and around us at the moment, but we certainly need to be taking points off them. Right, if you've enjoyed this video, like button please, and we'll see you in the next one.
Up the cherries. Oh, we've done that well. Mind the gap. Come on!